Good afternoon, my beloved Pussy Collective ladies. It's Tuesday at 3:33 p.m. I missed my Monday broadcast, so here it is on a Tuesday. I was traveling. Um, some of you may be aware that I had a beautiful maiden voyage into my first ever two-part course that was on the power of awakening our divine sacred waters within. And I'm super excited. That course just completed today. We have a bonus call next week, so it's kind of a 3-week container. But it was really beautiful to step into this calling. And so much activation has happened for me since stepping into that calling, some of which I've shared here. A couple episodes ago, I talked about the water ritual in Hawaii and meeting Dakota Chanel, my new soul sister and colleague, along the way, and the really fascinating journey of connecting our visions of healing the world through the sacred waters of women, Amrita. And since then, so much has shown up. For some of the other videos I've been sharing with you, I've been talking about how activating my connection to the divinity of Pussy and seeing through the Pussy portal with my oracle readings and the visions I've been getting, and stepping into my own wealth consciousness around what the new currencies look like when the alignment of every single woman and man and child on this planet is in right relationship with the divinity of our sacred portal of life. So it's a very, very potent time, and I look forward to chronicling it, as I've been promising, in a more linear way at some point. But every time I get on here, something new has happened. So I just got back from a really beautiful gathering with a bunch of Burning Man friends of mine who have been curating this camp called Camp Mystic. And it's a really, truly beautiful community. They've been in a camp for over 20 years, and they held their first ever pre-Burning Man gathering at this beautiful land that is stewarded by some of the mystics themselves, called the Mushroom Farm, which is an incredibly huge piece of property overlooking the ocean up near Santa Cruz, and only an hour outside of San Francisco. So it's a beautiful land, a lot of really incredible new paradigm infrastructure, regenerative power, really progressive gardening. Like they're up to some really profound stuff there. And there was an event for the mystics, and we brought our tribe of Eden people, which is the coupledom that Rano and I have been co-creating, and it felt like we were taking an alliance with this land and with this other community that's up to some really big things. And it was a really beautiful, fun weekend of co-creating and merging of visions and looking at how we can activate these visions together while also thriving. And what came through, there was a lot of the theme around bringing the old paradigm currency to meet the new paradigm currencies and visions, and what is the bridge that's needed to feel good about the new projects while funding them with money that hasn't really has been sort of dripped in what we call Babylonian money magic, which is basically taking us into the perils that we see in the planet, and how to turn that around and use that to fund and recreate and reconsecrate and reclamate what's possible with these new technologies and new paradigm consciousness thinking. So big stuff has been happening. So of course, little me with my visions around Amrita and whatnot, I went up to this event. Right before I left, I knew that there needed to be some sort of Amrita sacred ritual. And so I, at the last minute, remembered to grab this vessel of Amrita that I'd collected 2 years ago and had been holding 2 years ago on, I believe it was on the property of another very beautiful genius human being who's working in the new paradigm. And I had been sitting in my little tabernacle altar right over here for about 2 years, seeped and soaked in the energy of all sorts of sacred objects, one of them being an ancient Sanskrit text, a couple pages from that text actually that I printed out and have had in a scroll and have had in lots of sacred things around this text called The Thousand Names of Sharada, who she is a goddess, a Hindu goddess that talks about, or many thousand names of Sharada, many Hindu goddesses, but her personification, she's holding a vessel of Amrita. And the text talks a lot about awakening the unity of men and women and the sacred sexual fluids and love and all that to reconsecrate this planet. So magical story about how I ended up with that, part of the whole Da Vinci Code of Pussy I've been talking about. But that cup of Amrita, or that jar of Amrita, had been sitting in there with that and many other really magical things. So I grabbed that and I brought it up, and I knew that there'd be some sort of ritual. I was also scheduled to lead a women's ritual on one of the nights. So I wasn't really sure fully what was going to happen yet and how things were going to flow, but the first day, it was supposed to be a lot of rain in the forecast, and on day one, it was actually a very beautiful sunny day. So there was a hike to the beach down the street and across. And I knew, and actually, funny enough, my dear friend Denise, who's probably watching this at some point, I had given her, and I did a video about this, so I'd given her a little vessel of Amrita that had also been sitting in my medicine bundle for many moons. And she took it to Egypt, and she did a lot of beautiful blessings and brought the Amrita to all these sacred sites. And I'll share with you more in another video what she downloaded to me and the amazing synchronicities that are happening as a result of the work that she did in Egypt, what she discovered in Egypt, what I was discovering here. I'm going to save that for another video, probably next week. Fucking amazing. Like, this is blowing my mind and heart wide open to seeing the power of these sacred rituals that I've been doing with water and Amrita. So I'm just like, whoa, but I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger and not share that. But this weekend, I brought that vessel, not the one that she had. She brought that back from Egypt and shared all these great stories. But I took this other vessel that I had collected, and we went to the water, and Denise and she had this beautiful drum that she had just received from a major, beautiful healing journey she's been on. And we did this ritual where we walked down to the ocean, which actually there was a river running to the ocean, which I believe might be coming from the spring. So it's like where the fresh water meets the ocean water. And there was this river flowing into the ocean. And I was like, that's where I need to pour the Amrita into the river and give it to the ocean, which was inspired by Dakota Chanel, who lives in Hawaii and learned recently. She was like, well, I need to bring my Amrita to the ocean. And she did. And it was like, when she said that, I could just feel the potency of bringing our sacred waters of women and then feeding it into the bodies of Mother Earth's sacred waters and the ocean and all that represents. And so I walked into this flowing river, and I blessed, it was already blessed, but I blessed it again, and then I poured most of the Amrita from the jar into the ocean. And then I took the last bit of remaining Amrita that was in there, and I scooped up some of that water and created a new energetic batch of sacred water that I knew I was going to bring to the women's ritual the next day. After I'd poured the Amrita, it was fascinating. The wind picked up, and the current of that river started just flowing double, like triple time than what it was. And I watched the riverbanks flow into, like, start to break down, and I could see the energy flowing, and it felt so potent. And a friend of mine came over and said, I didn't get any pictures. Will you go back in? And, like, I didn't want to disturb the ritual. I'd love a picture. So I went to walk back in and hold the vessel. And, like, at that point, I'd just been standing in the river. But at that point, like, the river was flowing so much, and it was literally like digging underneath me, and I was like falling over because I couldn't keep my stance by how much more strong the river was flowing. And I thought, whoa, this is so wild. So I took that vessel back, and the next day we had a ritual with the women, and I invited them to share their dreams and desires for the world. Why were they at this event, and what are their dreams and desires, and how can they bless this water from this with Amrita and now the ocean water, and send their energy and their divine feminine blessings into it. And so we went around. There was probably about 20 women in circle, and I invited them also to contribute their water to this blend, this sacred chalice of water. And so we received everything from a woman's tears to her sweat to energy to their just swiping a bit of pussy juice to the speaking their words and putting their saliva in, and one woman even added her moon blood into it. So by the end, we had this very powerful, sacred vessel of all of our dreams, wishes, blessed by the women and filled with their own fluids. which I know people are like, was that sanitary? And, you know, I have no idea, but I'm working in a different realm. But to me, it felt extraordinarily sacred, and how we hold this in sacred essence. So that was really beautiful. And then we had that combined thing in a jar, and I had the jar sitting on the altar, just soaking up all the energy of what was being created. And then the next day, we got to participate in an honoring of the divine masculine ritual, which is a dear friend of mine, Tanya Lynn of the Sistership Circle. And she, at one point at the end, we did all this beautiful healing and conversation with the men and the women, and then the women got in the center of the circle and were surrounded by the men, and we spun around and got to have eye contact with every man. And I was like, grab the potion, grab the sacred waters, and I held it. And as I passed by each man, I allowed the gaze between us to really bless that water and activate it. And then when that was all complete, later that day, I gave it to another girlfriend of mine who has been the steward of this land. She's been the one woman leading the charge with all these men on this mushroom farm land. And she's called the Chief Dream Officer. And so she had asked if she could have that water from the women in the end to water some of the trees and the plants. And so at the end, I gave her both the cup it was collected in and the jar that it was sitting in. And I figured she could put a plant in the cup, and then she could take the jar of the water and activate it in whatever way she needs, bring the growth and the dreams, and plant whatever she wants, and to have that potion. So I'm very excited for that. I'm very excited for what we've anchored. I'm very excited for all of these beautiful priestess sisters who have been spearheading these missions with me, who are willing to take the sacred waters and bless them and bring them out and create and steward the land, which Dakota did in Hawaii, and now this beautiful woman did up at the mushroom farm, and all the ways that we're activating the new paradigm and the new currency and the new flow and the divinity of women and our sacredness and all of that. So it's very exciting. Can't wait to share more with you. But I'm going to leave you with that. And the invitation is to create your own sacred water ritual, whether it be with your own bodily sacred fluids or some other water, to call upon the power of water. It is a conduit. Water is flow, right? It represents currency. I like to say currency is the ability to see in the current moment, to be able to be in your own flow and not somebody else's dictated way of should, could, would, do, work hard, which is an ethos that the world has asked us to be in, which does not serve and is not serving at the ultimate highest level. And so water being the ultimate flow, the current sea, the current vision of sea now, also the current sea, the current of the sea, the ocean, the waters, the flow, the divinity, the women, the way. So do some water rituals. If you need help, ask below. We can share some ideas. If you have a water ritual you want to share in the comments, please share it. And let's just keep the waters flowing, sisters. I am so honored to be on this path. I'm so grateful for what I'm being shown. I'm so in awe of what's manifesting for me personally and my tribe. Money and resources and investors and creators and doers and dreamers and workers and all sorts of things, and visionaries and lovers, and everything is coming together to form so many shared collective visions, including the one I've been stewarding with my beloved Rano. And it's happening. So there is a lot to this potency of this magic, even though it seems a little woo, it seemed a little woo to me. But the more I dive in and the more I bring this forth and the more I follow what I'm being shown and what I'm being called to activate, I'm seeing the fruits of my activations. And all of the women that have been holding these activations across the planet, I see it shifting. I see it shifting massively, quickly. Desires are manifesting so fast. So I truly, truly, truly want to remind you that the power of your dreams and desires lie within you. And the more that we can pussify ourselves, awaken our pleasure, bring our sacred waters to the table, the more you're going to have a massively new experience of life, if you're willing to be in the magic and the flow and the current sea. All right, that's all I have for you today, sisters. Wishing you many, many blessings. Thanks for tuning in. See you next Monday. MoodDay Musing. Ciao.